Back on the record in the matters of the people of the state of Michigan versus Maddox, Burden, Fastranello, Haggard, Henry, and Lundgren. The prosecution can call their next witness.
Thank you. At this time, the people will call Ms. Terry Lynn Land.
If you raise your right hand when you get a chance. It's me.
Oh.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give us the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
Thank you. You can have a seat. You don't need that fan on? Nope, you're good. You can hear better, I'm sure.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Okay, please state your name, first and last, and spell both.
Terry, T-E-R-R-I, Lynn, L-Y-N-N, L-E-N-D.
Okay, so I have a court recorder that's behind you and there's a microphone in front of you. My court recorder has to take down everything being stated today, so I need your responses to be loud and clear, okay?
Sure.
And then they should be verbal responses. Head nods and head shakes would not be sufficient. We'd have to ask you if that's a yes or no. And then lastly, there are about 6 attorneys, and including the AGs on this case, or not including the AGs in this case. So if there's an objection, you would need to hold your response. I'll make a ruling and allow each attorney to give their response, okay? Before I tell you if you can give that answer or not, okay?
Yes.
Okay, you can proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon. 2020. Did you hold any positions within the Michigan Republican Party?
I was the Republican District Chairman.
Okay. And how long had you held that position?
Well, it's the end of my 2-year term.
And prior to that position, did you have any other positions that you held within the Republican Party?
In the past?
Yes, prior to being the chairman,
Yes.
district chair.
Yes, I served on the state committee and then a local county party chair.
And just because we know, have you held any political offices in the state of Michigan?
I've had elected office. I'm on the Wayne State Board of Governors, and I'm former Secretary of State, and I was former Kent County clerk.
Now, in 2020, during the summer, did the Michigan Republican Party have its delegation in some form?
Yes.
And were you nominated for any positions at that delegation?
Yes, I was nominated to represent Republicans as well.
And what does it mean to be nominated as an elector for the Republican Party?
I was nominated as an elector, and in Michigan, you vote for the electors of the party, and they're the ones that then, if their candidate is certified by the state board of canvassers as the winner of the election, then they're the ones that cast the vote.
And were you nominated for a specific district, or were you at large?
I was nominated for the third district.
And try to keep your voice up, just because there are lots of attorneys. Could you just repeat your answer?
Yeah, I was nominated from the third district.
And I believe you said that the election triggers whether or not you have additional duties. Is that correct? The election results.
The election result by the State Board of Canvassers determines whether you're elected. I was nominated, according to the State Board of Canvassers, I was not elected.
Okay. And the State Board of Canvassers certified the vote. Are you aware when that happened?
No.
Well, not specific date, but you know what month that was?
No.
Well, okay. Was it in 2020?
Right, after the election.
After the election, okay. And so you testified, I think, a little bit before, ahead of my question, that you were not elected as an elector because your candidate was not certified as the winner of the Michigan votes. Did I get that right?
Right, the state board of canvassers of the state of Michigan did not nominate. Or did not say that my candidate won that state,
And who was your candidate in 2020?
Donald Trump.
Now, when your candidate is not certified as the winner of the votes, do you have any duties after that?
Not that I know aware of.
Did you perform any duties after that?
No.
Now, in December of 2020, did you receive any phone calls regarding coming to Lansing?
Yes.
Do you recall when you received that phone call?
No,
Are you able to tell us if it was before December 14th, 2020?
correct, it was before.
Do you remember who called you? And who was that?
Me, Sean Madden.
Okay, and is this someone that was known to you before December 14th, 2020?
Yes.
About how long had you known Ms. Maddox?
3 or 4 years.
Would you recognize her if you saw her?
Yes.
Could you point her out in the courtroom and maybe describe what she's wearing?
Okay, I have to look around here. White shirt.
And for purposes of the record, the witness has identified the defendant as Ms. Sean Maddox.
Any objections, identification?
No objection to that.
Identification is noted.
Okay, and I believe you said you had known Ms. Maddox for about 3 or 4 years. You have to answer
Sorry,
yes.
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 Okay. And when you received the call, were you able to recognize the voice as Ms. Maddox?
She's in my phone, so it came up on my phone.
And did you have a conversation with Ms. Maddox?
Yes,
Okay, about how long did that conversation last?
not more than a minute or minute and a half, maybe.
Okay, and what was the context of that call?
She called to tell me there was going to be a meeting of the electors. And I questioned why. She then didn't really explain. And so I again asked the question, why would they be meeting? And then she said that Trump lawyers asked her to call me to invite me to this meeting.
Okay, and when Ms. Maddox said that she was instructed to call you by the Trump lawyers, did you have a response to that?
Yes.
And what was your response?
I said, well, then have the Trump lawyers call me and I'll be happy to talk to them.
And did the conversation continue after that?
No, she hung up.
Were there any additional calls from Ms. Maddox?
No.
Okay, did you ever get an answer during that call about why the electors were meeting?
No.
Did you go to the meeting?
No.
Did you ever even get a chance to say whether or not you were going to come to the meeting?
No.
Nothing further, the witness, Sharon.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Ms. Land, my name is Mary Chartier. Because of the unusual courtroom setup, you've got to move a little bit to your right to chat with me. So you said that, Ms. Maddox, I just want to make sure, said Mr. Trump's lawyers told her to contact you?
Correct.
Did she give you any indication as to what the lawyers wanted?
No.
Did she give you any indication as to who the lawyers were?
No.
And it sounds like that was a pretty quick phone call.
Yes.
Now, you indicated that your prior position was as Secretary of State in Michigan. Does you oversee elections to some degree in that role?
Repeat the question.
Sure. So does anyone who is involved at all in the election process, would that person have reported to you when you were Secretary of State?
No.
No. Now, so your knowledge of election law, would you say it's low, medium, high, regular person? Are you fairly well versed?
When I was Secretary of State, I was very well versed. That's been many years ago, and many laws have changed. So I'm not well versed now.
So when you indicated that you are not aware of any additional duties if your party's candidate is not selected by popular vote, let me ask you, suppose there's an election that's in dispute. Could there be other duties for those electors?
As I mentioned, the laws have changed since I've been Secretary of State. I do not have any knowledge of that.
Thank you. So if there are, you don't know that.
Right.
Now, do you know Mr. Haggard?
Yes,
And did you speak to him at all about this meeting on December 14th, 2020?
No.
Have you spoken to him in any form? I use spoken to, and I should have said communicated with, email, text message, anything like that.
No.
So you have no idea what Mr. Haggard was told about that meeting? If he was told anything, correct?
correct.
And you don't know what occurred at that meeting, correct?
Correct.
And you have no idea what Mr. Haggard may have believed on that date, correct?
Correct.
You have no idea what he intended on that date, correct? Nothing further. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So you said that you knew Sean Maddox for 3 or 4 years. Did you have a good relationship with her at the time?
We served on state committee. We both served on state committee.
Did you speak often?
No,
But she called you and told you, you testified that she called and told you that there was going to be a meeting of the electors. But you testified that she wouldn't tell you why, or was it she didn't know it?
we'd have to ask her.
What did she tell you?
She didn't explain why.
Why? You recall the exact dates and time of this call?
I do not remember.
Was it to your cell phone?
Correct.
Did she mention specifically from who from Trump's legal team requested your presence?
No,
But you said to her, just have Trump's legal team contact you directly.
Correct.
I guess why did you want that to happen as opposed to just continuing the conversation?
she did not answer why we were meeting.
Did you contact any legal counsel
Yes,
from that? Who did you contact?
my turn.
And what did you say to your attorney?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah,
Please.
I think that's delving into privilege, Your Honor.
Sure. Withdrawn.
Thank you.
Was it from that conversation that you decided to not attend the meeting
Wasn't from what conversation?
with your attorney?
But now that's my privilege. Can I object? Yeah, this was my attorney.
You want to know if her conversation with her attorney is what caused her not to appear
Yes.
for this meeting?
Respectfully, Your Honor, I do think this is attorney-client privilege.
Agreed.
I recognize, I don't know if your lawyer is here. There's not a lawyer here for Ms. Land
Right.
that I'm aware of, but I do think this
Does
delves
that-
into attorney-client
here, but-
communication.
I mean, there is, I don't know what record that's.
Well,
But
you
no.
can state your name for the record, please.
I'm happy to send her appearance.
Just state your name, Steve, sir.
Cole Lucier, COLE.
Okay,
SSIER. I'm an attorney for.
thank you. You do have the right to object for your client while she's on the stand.
Well, then I have to object.
Thank you.
Instruction to answer questions.
Objection sustained. I don't even know the relevance.
At some point, you decided that you were not going to attend. Correct.
I didn't have information to make a decision. I didn't have enough information to make a decision.
You didn't attend the meeting.
I did not attend it.
Did you tell anybody else that you were not going to attend?
No,
You know Kathy Burden?
Correct.
How long have you known her?
Oh, longer, maybe 10 years or so,
And you have a good relationship with her?
I believe so.
How about John Haggard? How long did you know him for?
Since I've been 18,
Since when?
since I've been 18,
Did you contact either of them to say that you were not going to the meeting?
excuse me, no,
Is it fair to say you didn't you didn't tell anybody else whether or not they should go to the meeting?
No.
When you were nominated as an elector, that's different than, oh, scratch that question. When you were nominated, did you have an alternate?
no, electors, the way I understand it, do not have alternates.
Did you send anybody in your place for the meeting?
No. No,
But you were originally one of the 16 nominated to potentially be an elector.
I was elected as an elector from the 3rd district.
Did somebody take your place?
I have no idea. I did not go to the meeting.
Ron, on behalf of Mary Ann Henry. Good afternoon, Ms. Lamb. Do you know my client, Mary Ann Henry?
I know who she is from political events. Right.
Now, her number's not in your phone.
I don't know.
You haven't had any communications, or you never had any communications with my
Correct.
client about the 2020 election?
Correct.
About any meetings on December 14th, 2020?
Correct.
And you don't know anything that she would have known about any meetings or anything about the 2020?
Correct.
No further questions.
You done? Yes. Good afternoon, Ms. Lamb. My name is George Danini. I represent Kathy Bird. Okay, you told us about a conversation that you had with Michelle Maddock. Were you talking to folks with the Trump campaign prior to December 14, 2020? Did you speak at all with Sean Flynn?
I don't know who Sean Flynn is, so no.
Okay. How about Mark Foster?
I do not know who Mark Foster is, so no.
Did you talk to anybody with the RNC prior to December 14, 2020? John Black?
I'm not sure who that is, so I'd say no.
Chris Velasco?
I don't know who Chris is. so I'd
How about-
say no.
How about Ronna McDaniel?
I do have talked to Ron.
Did you talk to Ronna McDaniel prior to December 14, 2020?
I don't remember doing that, but I don't know.
And obviously, I'm talking about specifically about the election and this electoral meeting.
Right, I did not talk to her about that.
Did you talk to her at all about this notion that there were legal challenges to the election, court cases out there, and that something could happen after December 14, 2020, which is the date the electors will meet? Never had a conversation with her about that. How about Laura Cox
I talked to her, okay.
about this issue?
Correct.
Okay. Did Laura Cox talk to you prior to December 14, 2020 and ask you to show up to the Michigan Republican Party headquarters on December 14, 2020?
No,
She did not say that?
No.
Okay. And so did she tell you anything about a ceremony to honor the electors?
I had called her and she had told me there was going to be a ceremony to honor the electors and that the work that they did on behalf of them.
Right, and so you were one of the people that was elected as an elector on August 29th and 30th, 2020 at the Michigan Republican State Convention?
I was elected then to the 3rd district elected.
Let me just hand you this document. I just want to see if you ever seen it before. I'm handing the witness defense exhibit A, which has already been in there. Have you ever seen that document before?
No. Printed it.
Well, it's a state convention document, but you haven't seen that before, is that fair?
No.
But it correctly identifies you as the elector for the state of Michigan representing District 3. And I noticed you were careful with your wording on direct exam about being an elector nominee. Did you prepare for your testimony prior to today with the AG's office?
No, I know that as an elector, I was nominated.
Okay. Do you see at the top? Can you read that into the record, please?
Certification of Republican president electors elected at the Michigan Public State Convention.
It says elected, right?
Well, I don't know where this document is from, so it's really hard for me to create an opinion on something that I don't know where it's from.
All right, but you were an elector for the Republican Party for the 2020 election, correct?
Correct.
And you see Kathy Burton's there as the at-large, one of the two at-large electors?
Correct.
And you said on direct examination that as an elector, if your candidate, and your candidate was Mr. Trump, right?
Correct.
Is certified by the State Board of Canvassers, then they cast a vote for president. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
There's a few steps in between that, but correct.
Okay. And you said you used to be the Secretary of State for the state of Michigan, right? The laws were different then, but you oversaw 2 presidential elections, correct?
I saw 2 presidential elections, but federal folks run the presidential.
Federal folks, that's, yeah, but for example, when you were the Secretary of State, you signed off on the certificate of votes for 2004?
For the candidates that ran on the ballot.
Fair,
Right.
for those 16 electors.
No,
No.
these are elected as party convention.
Understand. You signed, though, in 2004, the official certificate of votes for the 2004 election.
For candidates that ran in Michigan, if they won, yes.
Right, for the state of Michigan, but
Right.
in this instance, for those votes for president. Yes?
Correct, but that is only signed after the State Board of Canvassers certifies it. So once the State Board of Canvassers has certified the election, then the Secretary of State signs off.
Sure. And when you were Secretary of State, you were the keeper of the seal, the state seal, right?
Yes,
It was up to you to place the state seal on official state of Michigan documents, fair?
correct. After the Board of Canvassers certified the election.
We're on the same page on that, ma'am. You don't have to keep saying that, but you're certainly welcome to. I understand. We're talking about December 14, 2020 here in this instance, or the similar date in the prior years. All right. And again, you did that in 2004 and 2008, right? Do you remember something about a draft resolution that was floating around from the 14th district?
No,
You don't remember sending that to Laura Cox?
no.
Something about where the Republicans from the 14th district were essentially putting together a resolution to have the state legislature vote for the Trump electors. You don't remember anything about that?
I get thousands of emails, I do not, from different district parties and district chairs.
And I'm sure you get lots, but this happened to be something that you received and sent to Laura Cox.
I sent a lot of things to Laura Cox. She's the state party chairman.
Okay, sent her a lot of things in the
I sent
lead
her a
up
lot of things
to December 14, 2020.
on all different issues. I sent her a lot of things.
And again, I'm just coming back. So Laura Cox, you called her, you said, and she told you about a ceremony. And did she say that it was to honor the electors for being chosen as electors?
She said it was to celebrate the work that we all did in this election, and she thought that would be a good opportunity to do that. She did not tell me where it was or when it was. I stopped her before she went farther, and I still couldn't understand why. we were meeting.
A celebration wasn't a sufficient reason?
No,
Okay, you didn't care about being honored, is that a fair conclusion?
she didn't say we're gonna be honored. That's not.
Celebrated?
No,
What did she say?
she didn't have a celebration party, but to thank you for all the work you've done to do that. I did not need a thank you.
And is that why you didn't go? Because you didn't need a thank you?
I never got an answer as to what the purpose of this was. And without more information, I was not going to make a decision. And I never got any.
Handing the witness People's Exhibit 7. I'm directing their attention to page 3. Prior to December 14, 2020, had you ever seen that document?
No, but again, I don't know what this is from. This is from the state of Michigan?
Well, let's not worry about where it's from, who drafted it, but the question is very specific. Did you see that document prior to December 14, 2020?
No, I don't know what this is.
And so that document didn't give you pause or cause you not to be present on December 14, 2020.
I've never seen this before that, no. I saw it in the newspaper afterwards, now that I've seen it on the paper.
Okay, so you did see it afterwards, fair?
In the paper, yes.
And look, really what I'm trying to get at is, without going into your council's conversations, other than not caring about being celebrated, why else did you not show up on December 14, 2020?
As I mentioned before, I asked multiple times why, and no one ever gave me an answer.
Okay.
Without information, I could not make a decision.
Another document I want to show you. Defense Exhibit B. Have you ever seen that document then? So you've never seen it, is that right?
No,
So you're not aware that that was created by Laura Cox?
no,
Objection on a lack of foundation.
I'm trying to get a little bit behind her understanding about the document.
She says she's never seen it.
I've never seen it.
All right.
Objection sustained.
And you talked about when you were Secretary of State, that was 10, 12 years ago, the laws have changed. I'm not gonna get into it. Did you know anything about 1960 Hawaii, the circumstance that happened there? You never heard of that?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I am going to hand you equals 6 equals 5. Those are the certificate of ascertainment and the certificate of votes for the 2016 election. Okay. 2016. And I'm also going to hand you the certificate of ascertainment for 2020 and the certificate of votes for 2020 as well. 2020, excuse me, 3 and 4, equals 3 and 4. Okay. I know it's a while ago, but you told us that you were the Secretary of State for the 2004 and 2008 elections.
Give me just a moment. There's a microphone right there, so you have to make sure you don't put the paper on the mic because then she can't hear what's being said. Okay, thank you.
Do those, and I know it's been some time, ma'am, but do those look similar to what you would have prepared back in 2004 and 2008?
I'll object to that, Your Honor.
Yeah, I didn't prepare this.
Look, there's an objection.
Obviously, Ms. Land's direct testimony was very limited to a particular set of facts that were much more recent than over a decade ago when she was Secretary of State. To ask her to review this document and compare it to something she, or also no evidence that she's seen is, I think, very much objection for.
My understanding of a lawyer when a witness is testifying is they're there to object to either issues of privilege or issues that may implicate the Fifth Amendment. It's not to be a lawyer essentially within the proceeding itself, objecting on evidentiary rules or outside the scope. So respectfully, I object to that objection.
I would agree, unless you believe that this is something that would implicate her in some way.
No, I have no.
Okay, then I'll allow you to withdraw that objection.
I will drop it.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, and that's,
Can you repeat the question?
yeah, sure. And let me just preface it with, I think I said you prepared it, but you didn't prepare it. Okay, here's the question. I know it's about a decade ago, and I'm really, these are just kind of some general questions. I don't think they're going to be all that offensive. 2004 and 2008, you were the Secretary of State. You played a role in signing off on the certificate of votes and the certificate of ascertainment for those 2 presidential election years. True or false?
Republicans didn't win during my administration.
Well, President Bush certainly won.
He didn't win the state of Michigan.
Okay, fair. Okay, so then you didn't prepare those documents at all? It's not a Republican. You're not a Republican as the Secretary of State. You're a state functionary.
Right. And this
So it doesn't matter which party won.
Question?
Well, okay, so the question again is, did you, in your role as Secretary of State in 2004 and 2008, sign off on, strike prepare, the certificate of votes and the certificate of ascertainment for those 2 presidential years?
I don't remember doing it, but obviously the Secretary of State did. And these are presented and done by the elections director, Chris Thomas.
Fair. Okay, and the directions elector today is Mr. Brader. Yes? All right. So you had somebody who was the elections person, was your right-hand man. He handled kind of all that stuff then.
Was that a question?
Actually, they're independent.
Yeah, was that a question that that the elections person is her right-hand man? That's a question, man.
Yeah, that is incorrect. The elections director is independent. Not in the Secretary of State.
I guess where I'm going is for those 2, let's look at the 2 blue border certificate of votes. Take a look at them. Does that appear to be an official document?
I do not know. It was a long time. It was a long time ago. I do not remember what the paper was like.
Does it bear the seal of the state of Michigan?
Well, a modified one, yes.
Does it have a blue border?
Yes, it does.
Can you tell us, as a former Secretary of State, what the significance of the blue border is for official state of Michigan documents?
No,
Is that a thing?
I do not know.
And do you have any knowledge about in the election law space, the need to have a certificate of votes and a certificate of ascertainment to be counted as true votes? Are you aware of that?
No.
You have no knowledge of that?
No.
Your Honor, I don't have anything else.
Briefly, good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Paul Stablin. I represent Amy Fascinello. I just have a question. Were you at some point prior to this past summer, you were interviewed by a representative from the Attorney General's office, an investigator named Investigator Shock?
I don't remember his name.
Okay, do you recognize that guy over there with the blue tie, gray suit?
Yeah.
Okay, he interviewed you over Zoom or Windows meetings or something like that? Sorry?
It's in person.
It was in person. Okay. Where was that? Where was it in person?
At the attorney's office.
At your attorney's office?
Said yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, so he came to the attorney's office and you were there, and that's where he interviewed you?
Excuse me?
I was interviewed by the Attorney General in my Grand Rapids attorney's office, and I don't remember who was there.
Okay, when you say Attorney General, were you talking about a lawyer from the Attorney General's office or an investigator? The man
Both.
standing right there.
Both. Both.
Okay, and that was when? Okay. Was it this year, 2023?
It's summer.
Yes?
Yes, I think so. I don't remember.
Okay. Prior to that, were you ever approached by someone from the January 6th committee, the congressional committee
No.
investigating January 6th?
No.
Okay. In 1 second. Ma'am, did you give a deposition regarding the December 14th, 2020 date? Did you give a deposition about the circumstances surrounding that on October 4th, 2022?
I don't remember the date. I talked to the attorney.
Okay, other than the Attorney General's office, did you provide a deposition in any civil case or in any other situation? No. Have you ever testified under oath at all about these facts?
No, this is the first.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right,
So. All right, and then I have no further questions. Thank you.
As an elector, you seem to know a fair amount about that. Would that be accurate?
I know something.
You know some things about it. Okay. When you narrow it to August of 2020, when you were nominated to be an elector, do you get a handbook or anything as to what your duties are?
No,
How do you acquire the knowledge of what a duty of an elector is?
well, I know a little bit by the fact that I've lived a long time. And then I assumed that the state party, when the time would come, would inform me of the responsibility.
But you don't know that they
No.
do that. And do you recall if you particularly were informed as to your duties following August of 2020?
No.
So you wouldn't know if any of the electors were informed of their duties, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know Michelle Lundgren?
I know who it is. I don't know.
Okay. Would that, by the method of that response, I mean, you don't have any personal relationship
No.
with her. You don't have any professional relationship with her, is that correct? She's not in your phone, is that correct?
I don't know. We have to check.
Okay, you don't, but you don't today independently recall that she's in your phone.
I have 30,000 people.
Okay. And do you know if you've ever communicated by phone or in any means with her?
Not that I recall.
So you might have, but you don't recall now.
Correct.
It's certainly nothing that would stand out as a communication.
Correct.
You had no conversations with her regarding the occurrences on December 14th, is that correct? And you don't have any idea what went on December 14th, correct? And you don't know what occurred at the meeting, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know what Michelle's role was or wasn't, correct? You don't know what she heard or didn't hear, correct? You don't know what she might have spoken up to at the meeting, if that occurred, do you? Apparently, Daddy, clean up.
What'd you get for
Yeah. Ms. Land, you mentioned both the celebration and the meeting, right?
A meeting to celebrate.
A meeting to celebrate.
Right.
In
A coming together to celebrate.
Okay, could I take from your responses to numerous questions by different attorneys that you were not satisfied with the answer you got as to why you were celebrating?
Why you needed to go to a meeting to celebrate at that specific time. Why?
If you gotta work on a Friday and you wanna go meet, you need a meeting to do that? A reason to do that?
Yes,
You do,
yes, I do.
okay. Are you naturally suspicious?
I naturally am very busy. And I have many commitments. And it's December and it's Christmas.
So it sounds like you felt like you're a little put out by this request?
I felt like they needed to give me a reason why we were doing this.
You didn't need to be thanked?
I already was thanked.
Thanks.
You direct, very briefly. Now, Ms. Land, you referenced having an in-person meeting at your attorney's office in Grand Rapids. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you didn't recall who from the Attorney General's office was there?
Correct.
Do you recall the term investigative subpoena?
Yes, I had to go to this meeting. This wasn't a choice.
So
That I do remember.
was that the meeting in the Grand Rapids office?
Correct.
And that was, if I told you that was on October 4th, 2020, does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
22, sorry. Nothing further.
Okay, may this witness be excused?
Yes, please.
Okay, first, let me advise you, there's a sequestration order, so you're not allowed to talk about any portions of your testimony with any other witness, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. You can call your next.
From Mr. Tony Zimmerman.
Yeah.
No.
Who did you call as your next witness?
Tony Zimmerman.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. You can have a seat. Okay, there's a microphone that's in front of you. The lady behind you is the court recorder. She has to take down everything being stated here today, okay?
Okay.
Your voice seems loud and clear. If you could keep it up that way, it'll be helpful. We have a full courtroom and we don't have the best acoustics in here, okay?
Okay.
If there's a objection from any of the attorneys, and there are about 8 of them in the room on this case right now, if you hear an objection, you would hold any response, even if you're mid-sentence, okay?
Okay.
I'll make a ruling on the objection and then I'll tell you if you can give that answer or not. I want you to state your first and last name and spell both.
Anthony Zammit, Anthony Zammit.
Proceed, counsel.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. In 2020, did you work for the Michigan Republican Party?
I did.
And in what capacity?
I was the communications director.
And how long did you work for the Michigan Republican Party?
I worked there from 2017 to 2021.
And were you always the communications director?
I was not.
What other positions did you hold within the party?
I was previously the deputy communications director, and I was also the deputy data director.
Now, in 2020, when you were the communications director, what were your responsibilities?
My job was primarily to prepare statements for the GOP to review the mail that we sent out and to work with the press.
And who was your supervisor?
My supervisor was the executive director, Mike Ambrosini.
And did you also work for Laura Cox?
I did.
Now, in December of 2020, did you hear anything about a meeting that was to be held at the Michigan Republican Party headquarters in Lansing?
I was contacted the day before the meeting by Chairwoman Cox and was part of a conference call where it was discussed.
Okay. And would this be December 13th, 2020?
This would be.
Okay. And do you recall who all was on the conference call?
To my recollection, it was myself, Chairwoman Cox, our legal counsel, Sue Sandler, and the political director, Troy Lexon.
And were you given some instructions or told what this meeting was supposed to, what this meeting would entail?
I was.
Okay, and this was during that call?
Correct.
And what was your understanding of the meeting after the call?
My understanding was that we would be holding a meeting with the Republican slate of electors where they would sign a document that would say that if court evidence found that there was any irregularities during the preceding time, that the slate of electors would be willing to serve as Michigan's official electors for the 2020 election.
Did you ever actually see that document?
I saw it, but I did not read it.
And did you see it before or before that call on December 13th?
No, I saw it the day of the actual meeting.
And you said, but you did not read it.
I did not read it.
Okay. Were you asked to contact any of the candidates for elector to come to the headquarters?
I was not.
Do you know how the electors were contacted?
To my knowledge, Stu Foster, who served as deputy political director, contacted some of those folks, but that was the only knowledge I had.
Okay. And on December 14th, 2020, Were you actually at the Michigan Republican Party
I
headquarters?
was,
Is that at 520 Seymour in the city of Lansing?
it is.
Do you know who all was supposed to be in attendance for this meeting?
My understanding was that it was supposed to be a smaller staff. We were technically closed down because of COVID. So from the MIGOP, I was to be there. Troy Hudson, the political director, was to be there. Henrietta Cho, who was our chief financial officer, was to be there. The electors, and then my understanding was there would be some lawyers on site.
And when you say some lawyers on site, were they Michigan GOP lawyers or?
They were not. They were from the Trump campaign.
And do you know their names?
The only one I know for certain was Sean Flynn, who was the Michigan counsel for the campaign.
And did the Trump lawyers, did they have their own independent access to the building, or were they just coming for this meeting?
Sean Flynn had worked in the building probably since August.
What time did you arrive at the headquarters on December 14th?
It would have been fairly early in the morning. I don't remember the specific time.
Was anyone else there when you got there?
There was already quite a few people there. The slate of electors had not arrived yet, but there were already some lawyers that were there, and I believe Troy may have already been there as well.
Okay. And did you do anything to prepare the building or the conference room for the meeting?
No.
Okay. Did you, do you know what time the electors began to arrive?
It probably would have been around 10 or 11 in the morning. It was mid-morning.
And did you recognize the electors as they arrived?
I recognize some of them, yes.
And which ones did you recognize, if you recall?
I can recall Michelle Maddox, I can recall Kathy Burden, Maida Rodriguez, Stan Grott, just off the top of my head, John Haggard.
Okay.
Hank Cho.
Now, was anything done as the electors came into the building to make sure that the meeting was or was not recorded?
We collected cell phones.
And at whose direction were you collecting cell phones?
It was asked the day before when we were discussing whether or not I would be there. It was decided that I would be there to deal with any press and also to help with administrative tasks such as collecting cell phones. It wasn't out of the ordinary for us to do that for some meetings, just because with phones today, everyone has a recording device.
And did you collect all the cell phones?
We did.
Okay. And where did you keep them?
Just in a box.
Okay. And do you know where the meeting was held within the headquarters?
It was held in the basement.
And could you describe the meeting room in the basement?
It was a room that we used for trainings. So it's a fairly large room that was set up with tables in a square formation.
And were you there when the meeting began?
I was there when the meeting began.
Okay, and who all was present when, right before the meeting began?
What do you mean?
Like, who was present at the meeting?
At that meeting, to my recollection, were the slate of electors and the lawyer for the Trump team, Sean Flynn.
And you said you were present for the beginning of the meeting, is that correct?
That is correct.
Did you stay during the meeting?
I went back up to my office at a certain point.
Okay, is there ever a point in time where you returned to the basement?
Yes.
Do you know about how long you were in your office?
I was probably up there for at least an hour.
Okay. Do you know, did you go back to the basement on your own or were you asked to come down?
I was asked to go down.
Do you know who asked you to go down?
Troy Hudson did.
Okay. And when you went back into the basement, what do you see?
They were wrapping up the meeting and they were beginning to sign it out.
Okay. And when you say the document, what document are you referring to?
I don't know. I didn't read the document, but there was a signed pages for signatures that was on the table.
And did you said signatures as in more than one?
Yes.
And I know you said you didn't read the document. Did you recognize this as a document that you had seen before December 14, 2020?
No.
And when you said they began to sign the document, who was signing?
The Republican slate of electors.
And the document that they're signing, where is it in the basement meeting room?
It was on a table. There were 3 different copies, and so people had to go in a circle to sign the document.
So is it fair to say they were signing it in triplicate?
Yes,
Did you ever get a chance to see that document after it was signed?
I saw Sean Flynn take it up from the basement. But after that, I didn't see it.
Did you get a chance to read the document?
I did not.
And you said Sean, the last time you saw the document, Sean Flynn had it?
Correct.
And who did he work for?
He worked for the Trump campaign.
After the electors sign this document in triplicate, what happens next?
Sean, well, the reason I had been sent back down was to make an announcement. My understanding was that we were trying to keep this from being a public event because we didn't want there to be any sort of confusion that the official slate of electors meeting, that this meeting was for them to sign something that they were willing to serve as electors. And it had gotten to Troy and that they were planning to walk down to the Capitol. And so Troy asked me to ask them not to go to the Capitol.
Okay, and I'm gonna stop you there because you said something about an official slate of electors. And when you say official slate of electors, which slate are you referring to?
The duly elected electors.
Okay, would that be from the Democratic Party?
Yes,
Now, you said that Troy, is that Troy Hudson,
correct.
asked you to make an announcement asking the electors not to go to the Capitol?
Correct.
Okay.
And so what I said was that this request, that we were not asking them to go to the Capitol, that they could do what they wanted at the end of the day, but that was not a request the Republican Party of Michigan was making.
And did you go to the Capitol?
I did not.
To your knowledge, did any of the electors go to the Capitol? And not based on what you saw later, but just based on December 14th, 2020, not talking about reports.
No, so some were definitely going to go. Others, I know were planning not to go. They decided that they didn't feel comfortable with that.
Do you remember the names of some of the electors that were definitely going to go?
I know Michonne Maddox was going to definitely go.
Do you remember any of the other electors?
Marion Sheridan.
And after you made the announcement that going to the Capitol was not required, do you do anything else as it related to the meeting at the headquarters?
It was requested that a photo be taken to document the event. Again, we had been trying to avoid there being photos and whatnot, but several of the electors were, or the Republican slate was insistent on it. And so we discussed it and it was decided that Ken Thompson would take a photo to document that the event occurred.
Okay, and where was that photo taken?
In the basement of the MIT.
Okay, and how many photos were taken?
To my knowledge, just one.
Do you know what happened with that photo?
I do not.
And you said Ken Thompson took the photograph, correct? Now, at the time, at December 14th, 2020, Ken Thompson, was he a candidate for elector?
He had not been, but he had been chosen as replacement.
And do you know when when he was chosen as a replacement?
I do not. I believe that they voted on that in the basement.
So it would have been that same day.
I believe so.
Okay. After the photograph was taken, what, if anything, do you do next?
At that point, I went back upstairs with Sean Flynn.
Or any confusion on the telephone?